Hey folks, Joe Valley here. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Quiet Light Podcast. Guess what? We have a sponsor today. Today's podcast is sponsored by my Amazon guy. I know the founder, Stephen Pope, personally. He's a good guy. He's been on my podcast. I've been on his. He's got a YouTube channel. He's sharing a ton of free educational content where you can learn everything you need to know about listing, selling on Amazon, PPC, SEO, design, everything that you need to do, they do at My Amazon Guy. They can help manage your catalog. Check them out at myamazonguy.com. myamazonguy.com. Okay, so today on the podcast, we've got Cole South talking about a variety of things. Cole is a pretty impressive guy. Every morning he does jujitsu. He's been a professional poker player, been involved in hands that are topping $500,000. Runs 2 e-commerce brands touching on the 8-figure range, and launched a inventory management software recently that we talk about in the second half of the episode. And it's actually Amazon inventory management software using Google Sheets. A lot of us have all tried to manage inventory in different ways, but we often go back to Google Sheets, and he and his business partner ended up going that way as well, but integrating Google Sheets into the automation process so that at the end of the day, you're importing everything automatically into Google Sheets. And I'm not going to get it all right, so listen to the second half of the episode. He talks about his story in terms of bringing inventory in-house when COVID hit versus just doing everything at a 3PL or everything at Amazon. About 60% of his revenue is from Amazon. 40% is from his Shopify store, and it's pretty steady that way. He lives in San Diego, not a cheap place. He's got 5,500 square feet, and he decided with his business partner to bring the inventory in-house and then ship what's needed to Amazon on a timely basis so they don't run out. And he really hones in on the drawbacks of running out of inventory at Amazon and how much it costs you at the end of the day. So tune in. This is our episode with Cole South. Here we go. Cole South, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast. How are you, man?
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. Thanks.
Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, just so I don't get it all wrong.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm from Virginia, and in college in 2005, I discovered online poker and became a poker pro for a little over 10 years, which led me into the e-commerce world. Through my poker career, I got to travel and play high stakes games online in Vegas, Macau, Europe. But by the end of my poker career, the industry was shrinking and I was ready for something new. So my wife and I moved to San Diego and I started an e-commerce business with a fellow poker player based around products that he and I personally use. Because he and his wife had just had 2 young kids. They had an idea for a new type of baby shoe. So we launched a baby shoe brand called BirdRock Baby and a martial arts brand called Gold BJJ. He and I both train jiu-jitsu every morning. And that was the start to our e-commerce business. It was just a side project. When it picked up enough momentum that we thought, hey, we're really onto something here. People really like these products. We jumped into it full time. That was in 2016. So we've been running an e-commerce business for 6 years now.
And are you doing 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures? What are you guys doing altogether?
You're somewhere in the 7, 8 range.
Okay. Depends upon the year probably, right?
Yeah. We kind of had slow and steady growth over the past couple of years, but definitely some yo-yoing around COVID for sure.
So tell me, what the hell is it about poker players that make them such good e-commerce entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general? Because I think we've got one under LOI now in close to 8 figures. And the dude's a poker player. Mike Jackness, who formerly from San Diego, friend of yours, friend of mine, poker player, probably not as good as you. But what is it about you guys and e-commerce? What transfers over, or am I just making this shit up?
No, I mean, it definitely has a lot of skill sets that transfer over. I think the 2 main ones are, one, just approaching things analytically. In poker, you really have to break down the numbers and, to take every play into account to figure out what the most profitable play is. And that transfers over to e-commerce a lot. But I think even more importantly, in poker, you really get used to losing and okay with that. And if you lose a hand, you really got to regain your composure, get back to the table, and not just play terribly the rest of the night. And that transitions over to e-commerce because no matter how much you research any new product launch or prepare for a new ad campaign, you never really know if it's going to work. And so poker players have that ability and experience taking risks and being okay if they don't work out.
That is an excellent point because you've got to keep losing in order to win. And we're going to talk about e-commerce here, but I've got one more poker question. We're going to talk mostly, folks, about 3PLs versus bringing your warehousing in-house and the profitability difference between the two and all the logistics and everything. Cole, I looked at your Wikipedia page. What's the most you've ever won in a poker game, and what's the most you've ever lost?
Oh man, I mean, some of these high stakes games that were online, like the hands are all public, and you can pull them up on YouTube. And there's a few, pots in the $500,000 or $600,000 range. There was some really high stakes action. So definitely had won and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on any given day. And it's all about, in the long run, hopefully that the wins outweigh the losses. But there's certainly plenty of days that stung for sure.
I hope they did. I hope they did. You live in San Diego, and it's not a cheap place to live. So I think you probably did okay if you moved there before you started your e-commerce business. All right. So tell us about the two e-commerce businesses, and let's transition talking about the concept of a 3PL which is to most people, it's like, easy. I don't have to deal with that stuff, versus bringing it in-house, which means you've got to be good at logistics, good at managing people, good at inventory management. You got to do that with 3PLs too. But what have you done? What do you do now? And let's talk about what you like.
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to, run your warehousing fulfillment. For our business, we have so many different colors and size variations for our baby shoes or our martial arts uniforms that it's really hard for a 3PL to get their hands around all these different SKUs, which you might have limited inventory of some of them. So we kind of bounced back and forth between warehousing in-house as well as trying to use 3PLs from 2016 to 2020. And then when COVID hit and everything just went totally haywire trying to use 3PLs, we brought everything in-house. So for the past 2 years, we've been fully in-house warehousing. And it's gone great for our business.
And did you do that simply because you felt like you had to, or because they were screwing up so bad that you had to, or you kind of thought maybe you wanted to prior to doing it?
A bit of both. I felt like we didn't have any control over our business. Whenever anything went wrong, it was this, 48-hour turnaround time to get an inventory count on a SKU or an answer to a customer of why their order hadn't shipped out. And I didn't feel like it was being done with a bunch of precision either. Mm-hmm. Again, I think part of that is just due to the complexity of our business and not necessarily the 3PL's fault. If we had a business that was selling one SKU that was super simple and standardized and didn't have a bunch of returns or anything, then I think 3PLing might make more sense for our business.
Might make more sense. Okay. And in your business, you've got the baby moccasins, lots of different, I would assume different sizes and colors, and the same with the jujitsu. It looks like uniforms and accoutrements and things of that nature.
Yep. Uniforms, rash guards, fight shorts, all sorts of stuff like that.
All right. Lots of different sizes, but you live in San Diego. So somebody's going to go, man, that's got to be expensive. Or did you open your warehouse somewhere else?
No, our warehouse is here in San Diego. So yeah, it's not cheap. It's definitely, I wouldn't say a luxury for our business, but it's definitely an expense center for sure. I actually brought the exact numbers from our warehouse as well as Amazon's. Kind of want to break down, hey, is this actually saving us money versus Amazon?
Let's dig into it then, because that's the big question, right? People from expensive places like San Diego, they're like, yeah, I can't do it. It's too expensive here.
Well, my hunch, before looking at these numbers was I don't think running our own in-house warehouse is maybe the best immediate financial decision, but there are a ton of intangible factors that we can talk about later that I think make it the right long-term play. But looking at Amazon's numbers, Amazon charges 83 cents per cubic foot in the slow seasons. That's January through September. That's not nothing. I mean, 83 cents for a cubic foot, you could imagine some products are a cubic foot. And that's close to $1 a month for storage at Amazon. At our warehouse, we have 5,500 square feet, and we pay $8,600 a month for rent. So it's about $1.50 a foot. And if you figured that we could stack products maybe 12 feet high, that's 66,000 cubic feet in our warehouse. Obviously, we can't use all that. Let's say we use a third of that. It's roughly 20,000 cubic feet. We're paying like 13 cents per cubic foot. Paying like 40 cents per cubic foot. Okay.
So we cut it in half.
That's like half of Amazon. Yep. And then in Amazon's peak season, Amazon's charging you $2.40 per cubic foot. So we're looking at, a 6x savings during Q4. So I do think on the storage side, we're probably saving a little money doing it in-house.
What about on the customer service, timely shipping side? Can you?
That's definitely a different question. When it comes to a pair of baby shoes, Amazon's charging us $3.72 as an FBA fee to send a pair of baby shoes to a customer. It's a small, light product, pretty simple to do. We can do that for roughly the same price when it just comes to the shipping cost from our warehouse. Sending out via USPS first class is under £1. But we do have labor costs, a bunch of other things going into that. So we are definitely losing money shipping ourselves compared to doing it through Amazon.
Can you do it in the same sort of timely fashion that Amazon
Yes,
does?
I would say we're faster. And it's just a better customer experience coming from our website where we get our hands on the exact product before the customer ships it out. All of our employees know our products. So it's not like where on Amazon, maybe somebody will buy one of our products, return something totally different that then gets binned back in our inventory. Another customer orders what's supposed to be our product, but then gets either a cheaper version or something totally unrelated. That's pretty common with Amazon. So I do feel like we're at the point with in-house fulfillment where shopping on our website is a legit better customer experience than shopping on Amazon.
What percentage of your orders come from Amazon versus your Shopify site?
Amazon's roughly 60% of our business right now.
Okay. Is that growing or shrinking as a percentage of the overall revenue?
Staying about the same, but I'd say it's taken more effort to build the off Amazon side for sure.
Well, yeah, to be expected. So, are you doing fulfilled by merchant, right? Is that what it is? So you're shipping
all
from
FBA. So we're importing containers from China or Pakistan to our San Diego warehouse, then splitting it up and drip feeding inventory into FBA while we're fulfilling Shopify orders through our warehouse.
Okay, so you're still letting Amazon ship. But you're just managing the total amount of inventory you've got there. How do you do that? That's got to be quite the challenge, I would imagine, because you run out of inventory on Amazon and you have to build it back up and hope that they get it in time and check it in time. I've heard horror stories of people that ship products to Amazon. It takes 3-4 weeks for them to get it, I don't know, listed or whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah, it can be unpredictable too, especially over COVID, where prior to COVID, typically you'd ship something via a pallet or UPS, and it would get checked in real quickly. But then Amazon's had such staffing issues with the warehouses that sometimes your shipment would sit outside their warehouse for 3 weeks before they look at it. I definitely think what you're talking about here is the two biggest challenges we face in warehousing, and that's inventory forecasting and FBA replenishment. So when it comes to the FBA replenishment side, we just try to make sure we leave ourselves a decent cushion where we're trying to keep 45 to 60 days of inventory at Amazon. And we have alerts kind of set up in our inventory dashboard that, hey, if that number dips below 30 days of inventory, we need to get on that quickly and replenish that SKU at Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're saving 50% on the storage fees. You're paying a little bit more to ship to the customer on the Shopify side. What about the labor? I mean, how many people do you have? Do you have benefits? Do you have to deal with all that other stuff? You've done the full math, I assume, whether you're more profitable or less profitable by having your own in-house warehouse.
California labor is not cheap for sure. And we found in warehousing that you kind of get what you pay for. That if you go cheap on labor or warehousing equipment or anything else in the warehouse, it turns out to be very expensive in the long run. So we have a warehouse manager who is just an absolute rock star. We pay him really well. It's the type of person that I can just trust to make good decisions for our business. And I think he's probably more productive than 3 people in the warehouse that are moving slowly, don't really understand our business, don't have hustle to get the job done. So yeah, with labor costs, I would say it probably tips warehousing versus shipping everything directly to Amazon and not touching it to slightly unprofitable for us. But running our own warehouse does unlock the ability to sell wholesale for our baby shoes, for example. Mm-hmm. My wife runs a wholesale program. She's got them in 250, 300 stores across the country. That's the sort of thing that wholesale stores just are not going to be okay with their order dripping in from Amazon in 15 different packages with Amazon barcodes on it. Yeah. Not going to work in a retail setting.
Yeah. It makes sense. And it makes sense in your situation to do this. It's interesting. Do you know Bill D'Alessandro from Elements Brands?
I'm very familiar with this company.
Okay. So what you're saying is very similar to what Bill has told me in person and on the podcast, which is when you have, an in-house fulfillment center and people that actually work for you versus VAs and 3PLs, like your guy, he cares about your business and he's focused solely on your business and how to improve it. In fact, I think Bill was away on vacation. And when he came back, first of all, he was away on vacation and was actually able to check out and be on vacation. versus having to deal with emails and things of that nature from a 3PL. But the warehouse manager in his case redesigned, complained about the size of the pallets that were coming in and suggested a redesign, and ended up saving thousands and thousands of dollars a month just simply because he was dedicated to Bill's business, as opposed to a 3PL who's just dedicated to the 3PL. So there is that benefit as well. So you're slightly negative, but you can do other things like the wholesale stuff. What else are the other benefits for somebody that's got multiple SKUs, sizes, and variations?
I think one of the biggest ones for us is just less reliance on Amazon, to where this really hit us in the face at the start of COVID when Amazon slapped on inventory restrictions on how much inventory you could send in. And we were sending some products directly from China to Amazon, but very quickly we had to change our workflow up because we couldn't, if we sent an entire container of one product, we couldn't restock anything else due to the restock limits. So I think running our warehouse just gives our business some defensibility, some ownership of our own products where, we don't get a listing suspended on Amazon and then we can't fulfill Shopify orders because all of our inventory is there, stuff like that.
Well, that part makes sense. But with the container stuff going straight to Amazon, couldn't you have sent that to a 3PL and they would piecemeal pack it and ship it off to Amazon the way you wanted to?
In theory, I guess.
Yeah. You're
in reality, working with 3PLs like that.
Yeah.
It's never as easy as like you walk into your warehouse and you break things up and you get the things sent to Amazon in an hour. Working with a 3PL to do that, I feel like in our experience was both expensive, where you have the container unloading fee, the palletizing fee, the unpalletizing fee, the box label fee, all these things that are stacking up. And just the turnaround time to do this made it so bandwidth intensive for our team and their team.
How did you take this on? Like, how did you start? I mean, I know you did it because you felt like you had to, because you just couldn't deal with it anymore. But did you and your partner went out, found the space, and just started being warehouse managers and taking these products in and pick, packing, and shipping yourself until you got the rest of the crew to help out?
Oh yeah. I mean, we started not as warehouse managers, but as warehouse employees. We were slapping labels on orders for a good week or two, at least, just us figuring out, hey, this is the process we want to run things through. We need to be scanning barcodes to make sure that the right orders are going out, all these sort of things. Aaron Rubin from Ship Hero, who I believe might have been on your podcast.
I know the name, but I don't think he's been on the podcast. But if he has, I'm sorry, but I don't remember. But I don't think
he's got some amazing warehouse content and runs just like a really killer fulfillment company. So we learned a lot through him, and he actually got his start in warehousing and fulfillment running a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brand, which has been a big inspiration for us. So I've definitely kept an eye on what he's doing and trying to learn a little bit from people who really know what they're doing in warehousing. Because when Dave and I got into this, we certainly didn't.
Is it Ship Hero? It's just it's a content site, or what is it exactly?
No, I mean, Ship Hero started off as a warehouse management system.
Okay.
And has grown into their own network of warehouses. I think they've raised venture capital at a multi-billion-dollar valuation, like absolute monster in e-commerce right now.
Gotcha. Okay. So you started out as warehouse employees yourself, got the process going, things of that nature. What kind of software are you using in-house? What have you tried? What did you not like? What have you settled on now to, obviously print your labels and track your orders and all of that stuff? Or is it just, UPS or usmail.com or something like that?
Yeah, we run everything through ShipStation.
That, right? ShipStation.
Yeah, ShipStation, what we run everything through. It connects to Shopify perfectly.
Yep.
There are some more complicated things you could do with adding extra integrations in, but I feel like just keeping ShipStation and Shopify as the source of truth keeps it simple and it works.
If you were located in, I don't know, Midland, Texas, somewhere along the middle of the country, let's say bordering the Mississippi, do you think that your costs, your profitability on the warehouse would be in positive or negative, or would shipping it from the sea on rail to middle of the country offset any savings that you might have?
Yeah, I don't think getting a container from Port of LA to Midland, Texas is all that expensive. And you can fit so much product in there that I bet that cost would be relatively negligible, and warehousing in a cheaper area would probably swing it into the profitable category.
You wouldn't be able to go fishing though. Well, not saltwater fishing anyway.
No deep sea fishing off the coast of Mexico. No.
Or okay, sounds like you've done it and you enjoy it.
For sure.
All right. So one of the other things that you guys have figured out along the way through trial and error is managing your inventory so you don't run out, making predictable, guesses on when you're going to run out, what colors, what sizes, things of this nature. And you developed Synchronize. First of all, what is Synchronize and how the hell did you get that URL? And let's talk about that.
Yeah, so Synchronize is a software tool that allows e-commerce sellers to use Amazon, Shopify, Facebook, and other data directly in Google Sheets. So for our inventory forecasting, we have virtual assistants that are every single day exporting the Manage FBA inventory report, Amazon sales from yesterday, Amazon sales from the past 30 days, Shopify sales, Shopify inventory, all these reports. And then they're doing this across 2 different brands, uploading it all into Google Sheets. And we're pulling that data into our inventory dashboard. This was a huge pain point for our business because all it took was an employee choosing the wrong date range when they exported the report or uploading the wrong report into the wrong tab. So we built an in-house tool to totally automate this, where instead of importing and exporting these reports on a daily basis, you can use simple formulas like equals Amazon inventory my SKU, or equals Shopify sold units my SKU yesterday, and get these constantly refreshing data points that you can plug into any data dashboard you could dream up in Google Sheets.
And the entire point of it is what?
So inventory management is a big part of it for us. So like we have, our list of SKUs, and then the Shopify inventory, Amazon inventory, Shopify units sold over the past 90 days, Amazon units sold, getting all this data fed into these dashboards on a real-time basis so we can make accurate projections for both ordering products, replenishing FBA, that sort of thing.
I would imagine that has helped with your working capital needs, right? So people that have not been doing this since 2015 or 16 that are still in the startup phase, find they're taking every ounce of profit and putting it back into inventory because of growth. And sometimes their guesses and projections are off and they're holding too much inventory and don't have money for other things. How have you found this to help people with projections and yourself with projections and things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'll help you make more accurate projections where you're not over ordering. Personally, for our business, it's more helpful on the other side where it's super painful, where you run out of stock of a product that you actually have demand for. And then you got to regenerate momentum on Amazon, get the listing back up. So in our eyes, where we've had serious pain points for our business is where our projection is wrong on the short side. We just don't get enough inventory or we don't replenish FBA. And then like you were saying, it can take them a month to check in the inventory, but we only have 4 days worth at Amazon. We're going to be out of stock for several weeks. So this tool has been very helpful for us to keep our inventory stocked.
Just a little aside here. What actually happens when you run out of inventory? Your listing is not there, out of inventory, and then you put inventory back in. Do sales pop right back up, or do you have to spend extra money, or how do you get sales back to where they were before?
Well, the issue in my eyes is that not only have you lost momentum, so your bestseller rank has decreased, but when Amazon starts to check in your new inventory, it's not fully available. So the customer might land on your product page and it says in stock, but it'll say arrives in 14 days or something like that, because Amazon's still shuffling it around. And that absolutely tanks your conversion rate, which then lowers your bestseller ranking even further because people are getting to your listing and not buying. So yeah, in our experience, you really have to fire up the marketing to revive listings as you get inventory back in stock.
Damn. So not only are you losing money because you ran out of inventory, you're not making those sales, but you've got to spend extra paid advertising to ramp it back up because of what you just talked about.
Totally. And that's why the 80-20 inventory management in my eyes is like, if a product is a reliable seller and you're going to sell through the inventory at some point, like do not run out of inventory at all costs, whether that's at your warehouse or at FBA, because fixing that issue is just such a pain.
I've sold a few businesses over the years. I think probably 80% of them, I always ask the question, or I used to. I haven't listed a business for sale personally for almost 2 years now. It's kind of nice. Everybody, for the most part, again, 80% or so, when I ask the question, have you run out of inventory on any SKUs in the last 12 months? They all say yes. Why is that?
It's a hard problem. When you're running an e-commerce business, you're juggling so many different balls in the air. You've got inventory management, you've got marketing, you've got a bunch of different SKUs over all of these parts of your business. So for one SKU to run out of business or to run out of stock is really easy to let slip through the cracks.
And Synchronize is going to help with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Synchronize pumps it all of your e-commerce data into Google Sheet, where you can then make sure you're very closely monitoring how many days of stock you have at your warehouse, at FBA, to make sure that you aren't running out of stuff.
It's interesting, you know, most people that do this use Google Sheets, but aren't doing the automated import and things of that nature and projecting. Why did you choose Google Sheets in this situation as you're building the software?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we basically had tried every hosted inventory solution, inventory planner. There's a bunch of them that I think they're good pieces of software, but every person's business is just so different and has unique little quirks that made it so we weren't happy with any of them. And we would always end up back in Google Sheets. So when we were first building this tool, we were thinking, hey, maybe we would build like a new hosted inventory management solution. But we were talking to a lot of other sellers, and they just had the same story with us that, hey, we tried these, we didn't like them. We ended up back in Google Sheets. And now we're doing this very manual process of getting our important data into Google Sheets so we can run our analysis on it. So we thought, hey, if everybody's ending up back in Google Sheets, and that's what we like to do in our business, why don't we just meet them there and make sure we automate as much of the data exporting and connecting process as we can?
That makes total sense. Total sense. Only from a poker player would somebody come up with something as simple and logical as that. All right. I'm curious, again, I joked about it a minute ago, but how the hell did you get the domain name synchronize.com?
You know, I've always been big in just collecting things and gambling and all sorts of entrepreneurial stuff on the internet, and flipping domain names has been one of them. Okay. So I bought the domain name synchronize.com over 10 years ago when another big domain name collector had some sort of cash crunch liquidity crisis in his life and was fire selling a big part of his portfolio. And I picked up synchronize.com, 2011, I think.
I can't imagine what that would cost now. An actual .com, a word that is a .com. Do you think about selling it? It seems like you could sell that for an awful lot of money.
Yeah, and I have flipped and sold some high value domain names. The thing is, it's such an illiquid market. If you're trying to sell something like synchronize.com, you're going to be sitting on your hands waiting for the perfect buyer to come along for, you know, I've been waiting for 10 years and I finally found a project that I was working on that seemed like it'd be a good fit for this.
Yeah. Anytime anyone comes to us to sell a domain name, we don't do it. We tried back in, you know, maybe 12, 13, 14. It's just not what we do. It's not our specialty. So if there's somebody out, it takes a unique buyer, essentially, is what it is. From a brokering standpoint, there could probably not be an easier business to sell, if you want to call a domain name that's doing nothing a business. Because, you know, there's no P&Ls, there's no analysis, there's no risk, growth, transferability, documentation, none of it. Here it is, buy it or don't. It all depends upon how much they want it for. So good for you. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. You've just launched synchronize.com, as I understand it, and you've got a special URL for the folks that are listening to try it out?
For sure, yeah. So if you run any part of your business out of Google Sheets, I really do think you'll find this tool useful. And if you go to synchronize.com/quietlight, we'll have a special offer for Quiet Light listeners.
Sweet. Okay. You are a former professional poker player. You're running 2 businesses. You do jujitsu every morning. What else are we missing in this incredible? Well, you got kids too, right? You're a dad?
Yeah, 2 young kids, a 2.5-year-old son and 6-month-old daughter.
Your most important.
Got my hands full.
You do. Are you part of any events or meetups or anything like that in the San Diego area that are e-commerce driven that people can find you at?
You know, I used to go to a decent amount of e-commerce events prior to having kids. Now that I've got a couple infants running around my house, priorities have changed a little bit, and that's on the back burner for a bit. But I'm on Twitter at Cole South. You can reach me on there.
Sounds like my golf game. I played before I have kids, and now they're both off to college, so I'm taking lessons because I am horrible after 20 years. So back at it. Well, Cole, this has been great. Folks out there listening, check it out, synchronize.com. And if you've got a single SKU, maybe, you know, doing an in-house warehouse isn't for you. But if you're in Cole's situation where you've got multiple sizes, SKUs, colors, and all that, certainly makes a whole lot of sense. Cole, thanks for coming on the Quiet Light podcast, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.